Secrets are like shadows. They are always there, following you, even on the sunniest days. You can try to run from them. You can try to hide them in the dark corners of your life. But eventually, the light will shine on them. And when the light shines, everything you thought you knew can disappear in a second. Do you think you truly know the person you love? Do you know their passwords? Do you know where they go when they say they are working late? This is a story about the man I was going to marry, and the stranger he really was. I would like to ask you, have you ever found a secret that changed your life forever? Please share your experience in the comments. My name is Christine, and my story begins 3 months before my wedding day. My life felt like a fairy tale. I was 32 years old, and I was engaged to the perfect man. His name was Michael. We had been together for 4 years. Michael was handsome, successful, and incredibly charming. He worked as a business consultant. This meant he traveled a lot. He would go to different cities for meetings, conferences, and projects. I missed him when he was gone, but I trusted him completely. He would call me every night from his hotel room. He would send me flowers. He made me feel loved and secure. We were planning our dream wedding. It was going to be in June, in a beautiful garden full of white roses. I had my dress. It was hanging in my closet, covered in plastic, waiting for the big day. Every time I looked at it, I felt a rush of excitement. I was going to be Mrs. Christine Miller. I was going to be Michael's wife. Michael was the kind of man who seemed to have no secrets. His phone was always on the table. He told me about his day. He knew my friends, and I knew his. Or, I thought I did. He was perfect. Maybe he was too perfect. The crack in my perfect world appeared on a rainy Saturday morning. Michael had just returned from a 3-day business trip to Boston. He was tired. He came into the apartment, kissed me hello, and dropped his heavy travel bag in the hallway. "I need a shower, babe," he said, rubbing his eyes. "I am exhausted." He went into the bathroom, and soon I heard the sound of the water running. I decided to be a good fiancé. I wanted to help him unpack his bag. I wanted to wash his dirty clothes so he could relax for the weekend. I walked to the hallway and unzipped his large leather travel bag. I started to take out his shirts and his socks. At the bottom of the bag, hidden under a pair of running shoes, I felt something hard. I reached in and pulled it out. It was a phone. It was not his normal phone. Michael had a silver iPhone. I knew his phone well. I knew the passcode. This phone was different. It was an older model, black and slightly scratched. I held it in my hand, feeling confused. Why did he have a second phone? Maybe it was a work phone, but he had never mentioned it. He always used his silver phone for work calls. I stared at the black screen. A strange, cold feeling started to grow in my stomach. It was the feeling of fear. I pressed the home button. The screen lit up. It was locked, of course. But on the screen there was a notification. A text message had just arrived. The message was not from a boss. It was not from a colleague. It was from a contact named E. And the message was short, but it stopped my heart. It said, "We miss you already. Come back home soon. Love, E. We, home, love." I stood there in the hallway, holding the secret phone, while the sound of the shower continued in the bathroom. The man I loved, the man I was going to marry in 3 months, was washing his hair in the next room. And in my hand, I held the proof that he had a whole other world. A world where he was missed. A world that he called home. My hands started to shake uncontrollably. I wanted to run into the bathroom and scream at him. I wanted to throw the phone at his chest. But something stopped me. A voice in my head said, "Wait. You need to know more. You need to know who E is." I looked at the phone again. I tried to guess the passcode. I tried his birthday. Incorrect. I tried our anniversary. Incorrect. Then, I thought about a date he always talked about. The date his favorite grandfather died. It was a sad day for him, but he used it for his banking pins. I typed in the numbers. 0412. The phone unlocked. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would break my ribs. I opened the messages, and my world fell apart. There were hundreds of messages, photos, videos. I scrolled up, my eyes wide with horror. I saw photos of a house. A small blue house with a white fence. It was not a hotel in Boston. It was a home. I saw photos of a woman. She was pretty, with long brown hair. She looked happy. And then, I saw the photo that broke me completely. It was a photo of Michael. He was sitting on a sofa in that blue house. And he was holding a little boy. A boy who looked exactly like him. The caption under the photo read, "Happy 3rd birthday to our little man. Daddy loves you." Daddy. Michael wasn't just a boyfriend. He wasn't just a fiancé. He was a father. He had a son. He had a child that was 3 years old. That meant he had this other life for the entire time we had been together. I heard the water in the shower stop. Michael was finished. He was coming out. I had seconds to decide what to do. I could confront him now. Or I could put the phone back, pretend I saw nothing, and find out the rest of the truth myself. I looked at the happy face of the little boy on the screen. I needed to see this for myself. I needed to see his secret life with my own eyes. I quickly put the phone back at the bottom of the bag, under the shoes. I zipped the bag shut. I stood up, my legs feeling weak. I walked into the kitchen and started washing dishes, trying to hide my shaking hands. "Christine?" Michael called out from the bedroom. "Did you see my blue shirt?" "No," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. It sounded thin and high. "I haven't looked." He walked into the kitchen, drying his hair with a towel. He came up behind me and kissed my neck. "Are you okay?" he asked. "You seem tense." I turned around. I looked at his face. The face I had kissed 1,000 times. The face I trusted more than anyone in the world. And now it looked like a mask. I forced a smile. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. "I'm fine," I lied. "Just a headache. I think I need to rest." "Okay, baby," he said soothingly. "You rest. I have to go out for a few hours anyway. I have a meeting with a client downtown." A client. Another lie. I knew he wasn't going to a client. He was probably going to call E. He was going to check on his secret family. "Okay," I said. "Go." As soon as he left the apartment, I ran to the window. I watched him get into his car. But he didn't drive downtown. He turned towards the highway. I grabbed my car keys. I grabbed my purse. I was not going to rest. I was going to follow him. I was going to drive into the heart of his lie. Following the man you love is a terrible feeling. It makes you feel like a criminal. It makes you feel like a stranger in your own life. I kept my car 3 or 4 cars behind Michael. I was terrified he would see me in his rearview mirror. I was terrified he would stop and ask me what I was doing. But mostly, I was terrified of where he was going. We drove out of the city. The tall buildings and busy streets disappeared. We drove onto the highway, heading north. I knew this road. It led to the quiet family suburbs. It was a place for minivans, schools, and parks. It was not a place for Michael, the busy city consultant. Or so I thought. I drove for 45 minutes. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. My mind was racing. I thought about every date we had. I thought about the times he didn't answer his phone. "I was in a meeting," he would say. "I fell asleep early," he would lie. Every memory was now tainted. Every "I love you" felt like a question mark. Finally, he took an exit. He drove through a small, quiet town. He turned onto a street lined with trees. And then he slowed down. He turned into the driveway of a house. I parked my car down the street, behind a large truck. I turned off the engine. I slouched down in my seat so no one could see me. I watched. It was the house from the photos on the secret phone. It was blue, with a white porch and a small garden. It looked like a happy house. It looked like a home. Michael got out of his car. He didn't look tired anymore. He looked relieved. He walked to the front door, but he didn't use a key. He didn't knock. The door opened before he even reached it. A woman walked out. It was her. E. She was wearing jeans and a soft sweater. She looked kind. She looked normal. She threw her arms around Michael's neck and hugged him tight. He dropped his bag and hugged her back. It wasn't a friendly hug. It was the hug of a husband coming home to his wife. Then the door opened again. A small boy ran out. He was wearing blue pajamas with dinosaurs on them. He ran as fast as his little legs could carry him. "Daddy!" I couldn't hear him through the glass of my car, but I could read his lips. "Daddy!" Michael picked him up. He spun him around. The little boy was laughing. Michael was laughing. It was a picture of pure, perfect joy. A picture that did not include me. I sat in my car, and I felt like I was dying. The pain was physical. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it stopped. That was my fiancé. That was the man who was supposed to marry me in June. But here, he was someone else. He was a father. He was a partner to this woman. They went inside the house. The door closed. I was left alone on the quiet street. I sat there for an hour. I watched the lights turn on in the house. I saw shadows moving in the kitchen. They were probably making lunch. They were probably talking about his business trip. I imagined him telling her lies about his life in the city, just like he told me lies about his life here. Or maybe she knew? I had a choice. I could drive back to the city. I could pack my bags and leave him. I could disappear. That would be the easy way. But I needed answers. I needed to understand how a human being could do this. I needed to know who she was. Was she a victim, like me, or was she part of the lie? Suddenly, the front door opened again. Michael walked out. He was alone. He walked to his car. He looked at his watch. He was probably coming back to the city, back to me, to continue his double life. I ducked down in my seat again. He backed out of the driveway and drove past me. He didn't see me. He drove away, back towards the highway. Now was my chance. The woman was alone in the house. I waited until his car was gone. Then, I opened my car door. My legs felt like jelly. I walked down the street towards the blue house. Every step was a battle. My brain screamed, "Run away!" But my feet kept moving. I walked up the path to the front door. I saw a small tricycle on the porch. I saw a pair of muddy boots. It was so painfully normal. I raised my hand and knocked on the door. Knock, knock, knock. I waited. I heard footsteps. The door opened. The woman stood there. She looked at me with a polite, curious smile. Up close, she was even prettier. She had warm brown eyes and no makeup. She looked wholesome. "Hello?" she said. "Can I help you?" I looked at her. I tried to find my voice. I tried to be angry, but I couldn't. I just felt sad. "Hi," I said. My voice was shaky. "My name is Christine." She smiled, but her eyes showed no recognition. The name meant nothing to her. "Hi, Christine. I'm Elizabeth. Are you selling something, or are you lost?" She didn't know. She didn't know who I was. "I'm not selling anything," I said. I took a deep breath. I know Michael. Her smile got bigger. Oh, you know Mike? Are you a colleague from the city? He just left, actually. You missed him by 5 minutes. Mike. She called him Mike. I called him Michael. 2 different names for 2 different lives. No, I said. I am not a colleague. I looked her straight in the eye. I had to say it. I had to break her world, just like mine had been broken. I am his fiancé, I said. We are getting married in June. The smile froze on her face. She blinked. She looked at me, confused. She laughed a little, a nervous, confused laugh. I'm sorry, she said. I don't understand. What did you say? I am Michael's fiancé, I repeated, my voice stronger this time. I live with him in the city. I found his second phone. I found the photos of you, and I followed him here. Elizabeth stared at me. The color drained from her face, leaving her pale and gray. She put a hand on the door frame to steady herself. She looked at my hand. She saw the engagement ring. The same ring she probably expected to see on her own finger one day. Or maybe she already had one. No, she whispered. That's not possible. Mike works in the city. He stays in a hotel during the week. He comes home on weekends. We have been together for 5 years. We have a son. 5 years, I whispered. That was 1 year longer than me. I have been with him for 4 years, I said. He lives with me in the city. He doesn't stay in a hotel. He sleeps in my bed. He eats breakfast at my table. We stood there on the porch, 2 women looking at each other across a chasm of lies. We were strangers, but we were connected by the same man, the same betrayal. Suddenly, a little voice came from inside the house. Mommy? Who is it? Is Daddy back? Elizabeth looked back into the house. Then she looked at me. Her eyes were full of tears. She didn't slam the door in my face. She didn't scream. She stepped back and opened the door wide. Come in, she said, her voice broken. I think we need to talk. I stepped inside the blue house. It smelled like toasted bread and apples. It was a warm, happy smell. It was the smell of a family. I followed Elizabeth into the kitchen. Her hands were shaking as she poured water into a kettle. I looked around. There were toys on the floor. There were drawings on the fridge. One drawing showed a tall man, a woman, and a little boy. It was titled, My Family. I felt sick. That tall man was my fiancé. Elizabeth turned to me. Her face was pale, but her eyes were kind. Please, sit down, she said. I sent Tommy to watch cartoons in the living room. He won't hear us. We sat at her small, round kitchen table. It was intimate. It was strange. 2 women, in love with the same man, sitting in a kitchen that belonged to only one of them. Tell me, Elizabeth said. Tell me everything. So I did. I told her about meeting Michael 4 years ago. I told her about his job as a consultant. I told her about our apartment in the city. I told her about the wedding we were planning for June. I showed her the photos on my phone. Photos of our vacations. Photos of our engagement party. Elizabeth looked at the photos. Tears rolled down her face silently. She swiped through the pictures on my phone, and then she picked up her own phone. Look, she said. She showed me her calendar. On this weekend, the weekend you were in Paris. Yes? I asked. He told me he was at a conference in London, she said. I was here alone with Tommy. He had a fever that weekend. I called Michael, but he didn't answer. He said the signal was bad. We were at a museum, I whispered. His phone was off. We spent the next hour comparing dates. It was a perfect puzzle. When he was working late in the city with me, he was actually driving here to see her. When he was traveling for business away from me, he was here, playing father. And when he left her to go to the office in the city, he was coming home to me. He had built 2 perfect separate lives. He had split his time, his money, and his heart right down the middle. He pays for this house, Elizabeth said quietly. He pays for everything. He told me he has to work in the city during the week to support us. I thought he was sacrificing his time for our family. I thought he was a hero. He told me he was saving money for our future house, I said. He let me pay for the wedding. He let me pay for our vacations. He was using my money to support his life here with you. The realization hit us both at the same time. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a thief. He stole my money to support his family, and he stole her time to be with me. I feel so stupid, Elizabeth said, putting her head in her hands. How did I not know? 5 years. I reached across the table and took her hand. It was the same thing I wanted to do when I saw the little boy. I didn't hate her. I couldn't hate her. She was a victim, just like me. In fact, she was more of a victim. She had a child with him. Her life was tied to him forever. You are not stupid, I said firmly. He is a professional liar. He is very, very good at this. He tricked both of us. But he won't trick us anymore. Just then, the little boy, Tommy, ran into the kitchen. He was holding a toy car. He ran straight to Elizabeth and buried his face in her lap. "Mommy, I'm hungry," he said. Elizabeth wiped her eyes quickly. She kissed his head. "Okay, sweetie. I'll make you a sandwich." I looked at the boy. He had Michael's eyes. He had Michael's chin. He was an innocent part of this terrible story. My heart broke for him. He loved his daddy. He didn't know his daddy was a monster. Elizabeth looked at me over Tommy's head. Her eyes were fierce now. The sadness was turning into a mother's anger. "He lied to me," she whispered. "But worse, he lied to my son. He promised to be a good father. A liar cannot be a good father." She stood up. "Christine," she said, "what are you going to do?" I stood up too. I looked at my engagement ring. It felt heavy on my finger. It felt like a handcuff. I took it off. I placed it on the table. "I am going back to the city," I said. "I am going to be there when he gets home, and I am going to end this." Elizabeth nodded. "Good." She went to a drawer and pulled out a key. "This is his spare key to this house. Take it." "Why?" I asked. "Show it to him," she said. "When you confront him, show him that you know everything. Show him that his 2 worlds have collided." She paused. "And tell him that the locks on this house will be changed by tonight. Tell him he doesn't have a home here anymore either." I took the key. It was cold metal, but it felt like a weapon. "I will tell him," I promised. "Christine?" Elizabeth asked as I walked to the door. "Yes?" "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for telling me. It must have been hard." "It was," I said. "But I couldn't let you marry a stranger. I couldn't let myself marry one either." I walked back to my car. I drove back to the highway. The drive back to the city felt different. I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't scared. I felt a strange, cold calm. I knew the truth, and the truth had set me free from the fear. I arrived at our apartment building. I went upstairs. The apartment was quiet. Michael wasn't home yet. He was probably still driving back from the client. I looked around the beautiful modern apartment. I saw the wedding invitations on the table. I saw the flowers he had sent me last week. They were all props in his play. I started to pack, but I didn't pack my clothes. I packed his clothes. I took his expensive suits. I took his shoes. I took his silver phone charger. I put everything into big black trash bags. I didn't fold them nicely. I threw them in. I put the bags in the hallway, outside the door. Then, I sat on the sofa. I put the black secret phone on the coffee table. I put the engagement ring next to it. And I put the key to Elizabeth's house right in the middle. I poured myself a glass of water. I waited. An hour later, I heard the key in the lock. The door opened. Michael walked in. He was smiling. He looked relaxed. He was wearing his city face. "Hey, babe," he called out cheerfully. "I'm home. The meeting went great. Sorry it took so long. Traffic was—" He stopped. He saw the black bags in the hallway. He looked confused. Then he walked into the living room. He saw me sitting on the sofa. He saw the table. He saw the black phone. He saw the ring. And then he saw the key to the blue house. His smile dropped. His face went white. He dropped his briefcase. It hit the floor with a heavy thud. "Welcome home, Michael," I said. My voice was very, very quiet. Or should I say, welcome back from home. Would you like to continue the story? Of course. Here is the final part of Christine's story. Michael stood in the middle of the living room. He looked at the table. He looked at the black phone, the ring, and the house key. His face was pale, like a sheet of paper. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. He looked like a man who was drowning. "I met Elizabeth," I said. The words hung in the air. Michael flinched. "Christine, wait," he stammered. "I can explain. It's complicated. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." "It isn't complicated, Michael," I said, standing up. "It is actually very simple. You have a wife. You have a son. You have a home. And you have been lying to everyone for 4 years." He tried to step towards me. "But I love you," he said. "What I have with you, it's special. My life with her, it's just duty. I was going to leave her. I promise." I laughed. It was a cold, short laugh. "You were going to leave her? Just like you were working late last night? Just like you were in Boston last weekend? You are a liar, Michael. And you are a thief. You used my money to pay for your life with her. And you used her time to be with me." I pointed to the door. "Your bags are in the hallway. They are trash bags because that is what your lies are. Trash." He looked at me. He saw that his charm didn't work anymore. He saw that I wasn't the sweet, trusting Christine anymore. I was a woman who knew the truth. He looked at the key on the table. "Elizabeth gave me that key," I told him. "She said to tell you that the locks are changed. You don't have a home there anymore, and you don't have a home here." Michael looked down. His shoulders slumped. The confident businessman was gone. He looked small and pathetic. He slowly picked up the black phone. He didn't touch the ring. He knew he had no right to it. He turned around and walked out of the apartment. He picked up the black garbage bags in the hallway. And then, he left. I closed the door. I locked it. I leaned my back against the door and slid down to the floor. I waited to cry. I waited for the heartbreak. But the tears didn't come. Instead, I felt a huge, deep breath of air fill my lungs. The heavy weight was gone. The shadows were gone. I was alone in my apartment, but for the first time in 4 years, the apartment felt clean. It felt honest. The next few months were hard. I had to cancel the wedding. I had to tell my friends and family. It was embarrassing to tell them my fiancé had a secret wife, but everyone was so kind. They didn't judge me. They supported me. I realized that I had a real support system, real love, all around me. I never saw Michael again. I heard he moved to a different state. He lost everything because he wanted everything. I did stay in touch with Elizabeth for a little while. We weren't best friends. The pain was too fresh. But we were allies. We helped each other sort out the financial mess he left behind. She told me she was doing well. She was focusing on her son, Tommy. She was happy to be free of the lies, too. A year later, I was walking in the park. It was a beautiful spring day. The flowers were blooming. I saw a bride and groom taking photos. A year ago, that was supposed to be me. I stopped and watched them. They looked happy. I smiled. I wasn't sad. I was grateful. I was grateful that I looked in that bag. I was grateful that I found that phone. I was grateful that I was brave enough to drive to that blue house. Because if I hadn't, I would have married a stranger. I would have lived a life of lies. Now, my life is simple. I live alone. I have my job. I have my friends. I don't have a fiancé. But I have something much more important. I have the truth. I trust myself. I know that if something is wrong, I will see it. I know that I am strong enough to face the painful things. I discovered my fiancé's secret life. It broke my heart for a moment, but it saved my life forever. I learned that the truth hurts, but lies kill. And I chose to live. If this story about courage and finding the truth resonated with you, please give this video a like. Have you ever had to make a hard choice to protect yourself? Share your story in the comments. For more emotional English stories about strength and resilience, please be sure to follow our channel.